I have two books to recommend to you this morning. The first is by Ronald Wright, a Canadian writer who, oddly enough, lives on Salt Spring Island, a place that I'm very familiar with. Mr. Wright is the author of a best-selling book called A Short History of Progress. This book is called What is America? And it was an astonishing read. Mr. Wright basically posits that America is guns, God, and glory. It's a country born of violence, continuing into violence. It's an imperialist nation. It's a country that's all about empire, and not to say that other countries have not been or were not or still are not. But a peculiar and fascinating country that is often not at all what it seems. He draws a straight line between the days of Columbus and the days of George W. Bush. Mr. Wright points out that before we even get to the United States of America, we talk about the Europeans in the Americas and the total destruction of completely integrated cultures and communities in the Incas and the Aztecs, specifically in Peru and in Mexico. And tells me things, tells the reader things about those cultures and about the cultures of American Indians that I blush to say I had no idea about. I didn't know that Native American cultures in America were so sophisticated that they had town halls, they had newspapers, they were publishing Native American newspapers. That they had great monumental buildings built almost like pyramids and so on. And I didn't know about the wanton destruction that the Europeans visited on the American Indians. I mean, of course I know that I have this vague image of what happened, but I didn't know, for example, that European settlers, one of the many ways that they defeated the American Indian was to hand them blankets as gifts, blankets that were already infected with smallpox, and they wiped out Native American populations in the millions by infecting them with disease, not to mention the other diseases of alcohol and typhoid and so on. So it's not a pretty picture, but it's a fascinating one. I just read you a section that he quotes from the famous French traveler in America a few centuries ago, Alex de Tocqueville, who said, "The future of the New World belongs to a restless, calculating, adventurous race which sets coldly about deeds that can only be explained by the fire of passion, and which trades in everything, not excluding even morality and religion. A nation of conquerors that submits to living the life of a savage without ever letting itself be carried away by its charms, that only cherishes those parts of civilization and enlightenment which are useful, and presses forward to the acquisition of riches, the single end of its labors. It is a wandering people whom rivers and lakes cannot hold back, before whom forests fall and prairies are covered in shade, and who, when they have reached the Pacific Ocean, will come back on its tracks to trouble and destroy the societies which it will have formed behind." Then he comes up with this astonishing fact, that is Mr. Wright, the author. By 1860, of the South's 12 million people, 4 million, one-third of the total, were slaves, which will lead me to my second book, which I'll talk about in a moment, about the Civil War. But this is an amazing book, and it's filled with all kinds of really horrendous facts. White savages is the name of one of the chapters. Did you know that the word savage originally didn't mean what we take it to mean these days at all? It meant another thing entirely, a good thing, and then slowly, as the language got polluted, savage meant someone out of control. No nation would show a greater dread of socialism than the United States, says the author, and isn't he right when you consider what's going on today? If there's but one religion, why do you white people differ so much about it? One of the great Senecas asked a missionary. America's wealth and freedom would be built on the slaughter of one race and the enslavement of the other. The 5, later 6 nations confederacy may well have been the oldest and most structured democracy in North America. Faith and profit jumping together would become the American way. Faith and profit jumping together. God, guns, and glory. It's really a heck of a read. I can't recommend it highly enough. A fascinating read. I liked it a lot. And of course it draws a straight line to Rumsfeld, Cheney, and Bush. Remember that Rumsfeld, before he was determined to kill Saddam Hussein, was shaking hands with him. And so it goes, as we say. Now, so I recommend that book highly. It's called What is America? And then, wandering about actually to meet a friend for coffee or something or other in Venice a couple weeks ago, I came across this book. It's called This Republic of Suffering, Death and the American Civil War by Drew Gilpin Faust. Now, Drew Gilpin Faust happens to be the president of Harvard University, and if you saw if you saw Ken Burns' famous TV series on the Civil War, which I did not, but I must correct that soon. I must get a copy and watch it. You would see that she played a large part in that series. Drew Gilpin Faust is an historian, and she has covered the Civil War like nobody's business. And basically, what she did is she combed through archives all over America and all over the world and found all these letters between soldiers and families and soldiers and so on, and as well as official records also. But she tells the story of just hideous, massive destruction of human life, 650,000 soldiers killed between the two armies. And the book is entirely about death. The first chapter is all about the good death, the ars moriendis, the art of dying in some beautiful or positive way. And then she just keeps giving you numbers. I'm trying to find you the chapters. The first chapter is called Dying, because that's what people were sent to do. That's what soldiers are sent to do. You're not sent to do anything else but to die. And so if that's your job, you have to figure out a good way to do it, I suppose. Killing, that's your other job. Burying, and she just digs up all these records about all the bodies that were not buried, and then trying to correct that. Naming, realizing, believing and doubting, accounting and numbering. How many? This is an astonishing book. I confess that I didn't even know I had an interest in the Civil War, and that's what a good writer can do. A good writer can take you to an area that you didn't know even resonated for you, and just make it sort of sing. And Drew Gilpin Faust has done that for me with this book. Also highly recommended, This Republic of Suffering. Somehow, it's not a cheerful book, and yet it's kind of about it is about a gruesome subject, but it's exciting to read because it's so well done and it's so interesting. So there you have it. That's my Sunday morning book review. Hope you enjoy that, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.